The injury to Brock Bowers is a really big problem for Georgia on the surface, but it's not really in reality because the Bulldogs aren't really going to be tested while Brock Bowers is out, and that's kind of just par for the course for Georgia in the SEC East. See a lot of stuff about the Big Ten West being really down, and it is, but the SEC East is not great either. It's Georgia and then everybody else. So they're going to cakewalk to Atlanta in a couple of weeks, and that's okay. And they're going to do it without Brock Bowers. The problem is for the rest of the college football world is it's going to give Georgia 4 to 6 weeks to figure out who else they've got on offense to do some things with outside of Brock Bowers being there to bail them out in the most important and imperative times in game after game after game. It's going to be a learning experience for their guys, and they're probably going to relish it, grow from it, and get better from it, which should be scary to the rest of the college football world because while Georgia, and I will have maintained this throughout this podcast's history, the brief history that it is, they're not the best team in the country, and yet they're ranked number one because they get the benefit of the doubt, and that's okay. They're still very good. I just don't think they're the best team in America. Brock Bowers being out makes them a worse team, but it will make them a better team down the line. And now, for parity's sake, for interest's sake, for excitement's sake, I don't want that to happen. I don't want Georgia to be better and have an opportunity to spend a month figuring out really who they are without Brock Bowers because they're only going to get better from it. I don't necessarily want to see dynasties. I don't want to see opponents that can't be toppled, the 1,000-pound gorilla that can't be knocked from the top of the mountain. I don't necessarily want to see that. I don't want to see unpredictability and chaos. And Georgia being great week after week, year after year, that's not all that fun to me. But Brock Bowers is an imperative, really, really, really important part of not only that offense, but that team, because he can do things that not many other people or anyone at all can do in college football. He is a load and a bear of a man who runs like the wind, and it's a great combo to have, and yet they're going to be without him for 4 to 6 weeks, and that's going to damage them in the short term and really strengthen them in the long term. And I know that it's not always easy to see, the night is darkest before the dawn or whatever the hell phrase you want to use, but they're going to be better in the long run for it. One, he's going to be a little fresher because he's not going to have 4 more weeks of wear and tear on his body. And like I said, they're going to have the opportunity to figure out who they are offensively, what they are offensively, and who they can go to in really important moments. And that's only going to help them down the road. Now, for the other top 5 teams, I think that there are players that you have to look at and go, we cannot survive if this guy goes down for us. And I think each top 5 team has one. Each top 5 team has if this guy goes down for 4 to 6 weeks, we are bleeped. We are in trouble. And I think it's really easy to look at who those guys are. Now, this is not ranked on importance level because I think there's one guy in particular that is much more important than the other 3 guys on this list. But outside of Brock Bowers, here are the 4 guys that I think the top 5 teams in America cannot afford to lose and maintain a spot in the college football playoff or on the periphery of the college football playoff. For Michigan, I think this one is really, really simple. Your instant thought is J.J. McCarthy, and I don't think that's it. I think it's Blake Corum. Blake Corum is the one guy that Michigan can't afford to be without. Now, you might think like, well, Donovan Edwards can be a serviceable. No, he can't. Like, is Michigan's backup running back probably better and more equipped to play a larger role than the Michigan backup quarterback? Probably. Blake Corum has 12 touchdown rushes this year already. They have been a buzzsaw offensively and defensively. They're better. They're great offensively, and their defense is better. And yet Blake Corum is the one guy they cannot afford to lose. One, from strictly a production standpoint, but then also like a mindset standpoint, psychologically. I don't think it's a well-kept secret that Blake Corum is the heart and soul of that team. And so one, from a production / talent level / way they want to play offensively, where it all kind of goes through him, you can't afford to lose Blake Corum. But then also from leadership and mindset and moral compass and all of those things, the locker room stuff that goes on, Blake Corum is really a key driver to that team, that program, that offense, that they cannot afford to lose. So Blake Corum, I think, is the guy at Michigan. I also think that Jordan Travis, the quarterback, and so two of these guys are quarterbacks, two of them are offensive skill position players, just because offense gets all the pub. I think Jordan Travis at Florida State is the guy because similarly to Blake Corum, his attitude, mindset, demeanor, swagger elevates the rest of that program. Now, I'm not saying, and we talked about this a few weeks ago, of who is being held back by really good quarterback, who's being held back by quarterback play, and who's being elevated by quarterback play. And I think Florida State's kind of right in the middle. Like, they are reaching their potential. They are what they are. They are where they are, not in spite of and not because of Jordan Travis. He's a nice complement to the rest of the players around him. He does a really great job of distributing the football to Keon Coleman, and that's kind of it, which when you've got a player like that, you don't really have to overthink it. You don't have to go, well, who else are we going to get the football to? We're going to get it into Keon Coleman's hands, and things are going to go really, really well for us. So I think he's right at the level where he should be and where they should be because of him. Now, if they were to lose him, they drop dramatically. So they're not where they are in spite of him, and he hasn't necessarily been the tractor trailer that has driven them to a top 5 spot either. He's right where he needs to be, which means if you are right where you need to be with this guy, losing that teeters you into a place that Florida State does not want to be. That makes sense. That tracks at all. It all collectively is like, yes, that is true. If you are exactly where you need to be, where you want to be with this guy, not having him, woof. So Jordan Travis is the guy for Florida State, at least in my opinion, that is the guy that you cannot do without. This is the Daily Huddle. I'm Garrett Searight. Appreciate you making us a part of your day, however it is, wherever it is you're doing. So looking at a couple of other programs. Ohio State had a quarterback controversy coming into this season. And I don't even know if it's a quarterback competition is the better word. Controversy, I don't think is fair. There was a quarterback competition. And I don't even know, now that it's played out, I don't know how much of a competition it was, as much as it was the coaches probably were trying to drive and fuel Kyle McCord into elevating himself up a level. Because I don't know that from the competition that we've seen on the field, I don't know that Devin Brown was ever in that competition. Now, they used him in a goal line package over the weekend at Purdue and went well a little bit, fumbled the football and turned it over another time. It is what it threw a touchdown pass. It is what it is. But I don't think Kyle McCord's the guy for Ohio State that they can't afford to lose. The guy that they can't afford to lose is Marvin Harrison Jr. One, because I will die on this hill that whether or not he wins the Heisman Trophy, and I don't think he really has an opportunity to win the Heisman Trophy, Marvin Harrison Jr. is the best football player in college football. Marvin Harrison Jr. is better at being a wide receiver than anybody else is at their position. The level in which he is playing is unbelievable and unmatched in college football. And similarly to Blake Corum, similarly to Brock Bowers, when Ohio State needs a play, when they have to convert a pivotal third down or whatever, they're in the red zone, they're going to Marvin Harrison Jr. And even if you're going to double team, they still might take their chances with it. And his availability, I want to say his health, but that might not be true or fair. His availability has, for the most part, been unquestioned. He had an ankle injury that he played with, that he still had 163 yards and 3 touchdowns or whatever 2 weeks ago now. So he's not necessarily at 100%, but he has been available, and he continues to be available, where Emeka Egbuka, the other great wide receiver at Ohio State, missed last week's game. Travion Henderson, great running back, has missed the last 2 games. Mayan Williams, another good running back, missed the last game. Marvin Harrison Jr. has been there time and time again, and the matchup problems he creates, but then also the talent that he has and the ability to just flat out be better at football than the person or people who are charged with guarding him is really, really impressive and really, really important, because Kyle McCord, the quarterback at Ohio State, is not playing necessarily at the level that, one, I think Ohio State fans are used to seeing, and you've been spoiled with back-to-back-to-back first-round quarterbacks. But then also, Kyle McCord is not, and this isn't, I don't think this is his fault. I think this is just his limitations so far, and delving into being a starting quarterback. He's not playing at the level that Ryan Day, Brian Hartline, and the offensive staff at Ohio State are used to playing with as well. You get used to playing with Dwayne Haskins, Justin Fields, CJ Stroud. There are 3 first-round quarterbacks in that group. Is Kyle McCord a first-round quarterback? Maybe someday, but he sure as hell is not right now. But you get used to calling an offense, scripting an offense, preparing an offense with a guy with supreme talent. And Kyle McCord isn't that guy. But what he is a very good companion and has a ton of chemistry with Marvin Harrison Jr. So Marvin Harrison Jr., and I don't know, and it might be a topic for another day, of what does it say about your offense if your quarterback isn't the straw that stirs the drink, right? Because for the most part, at Ohio State, Marvin Harrison Jr. is the straw that stirs the drink. If you don't have that straw, if Marvin Harrison Jr. goes down for 4 to 6 weeks, Ohio State is in a world of trouble. A world of trouble, because they're still not necessarily running the football all that effectively, all that well. Their offensive line doesn't get to the second level. So you're averaging 3.5 yards a carry instead of the 6 or 7 yards a carry you're used to operating out of that offense with that talent. But Marvin Harrison Jr. makes up for and covers up a lot of bad things. And I don't even know they're bad as much as he covers up a lot of average things. And if you lose the one, and Emeka Egbuka is probably an elite college receiver. Marvin Harrison Jr. is an elite receiver. If you are average here, slightly above average at this position, maybe, really good at this position, and then you have supreme elite Marvin Harrison Jr., to lose that would be a similar loss to Brock Bowers for Georgia. And the final player on my list of teams that just cannot afford to lose this one individual player is Michael Penix Jr. And I know that I've been riding the Michael Penix Jr. train all season, maybe even a little bit before it was cool, because I told you I thought he and Jaden Daniels were going to battle back and forth for the Heisman Trophy. And if LSU could play in any meaningful games and their defense didn't suck, Jaden Daniels might still be in the Heisman Trophy conversation, but he's really not right now, because it's Michael Penix Jr.'s trophy to lose. But he is unquestionably the leader of Washington. And I think unquestionably is, and I made this analogy last week, of there are semis and there are trailers. One of them is along for the ride, and the other is taking this thing wherever the hell we want to go. And I think Michael Penix Jr., at least right now in college football, is the biggest semi. He is the one driving the success that Washington is seeing. Not necessarily alone by himself, but Michael Penix Jr. sure as hell is not along for the ride at Washington. Michael Penix Jr. is driving Washington to, right now, it looks as if, the college football playoff. Now, there's a lot of football to still be played. I don't make any bones about that. I know that there are still a lot of things that could go wrong for Washington, for Michael Penix Jr., et cetera, et cetera. But you get a win against Oregon, who is conceivably the best team on your schedule. It's all downhill from there, right? Like, it's all easy peasy, smooth sailing. Now, I know that it's not that simple, but unquestionably, Michael Penix Jr. is the most important player to his team. He is more important to Washington than Brock Bowers is to Georgia. More than Blake Corum at Michigan, more than Marvin Harrison Jr. at Ohio State, more than Jordan Travis at Florida State, more than Shedeur Sanders at Colorado, or whoever else you want to throw in that conversation. Michael Penix Jr. is the single most important person, single most important player to his team in America. I don't know who Washington's backup quarterback is, and I don't know that they want to know either. I don't know that they want to find out and have to thrust him into a situation, because what Michael Penix Jr. is doing, one, he has a supreme understanding of the offense that Kalen DeBoer wants to run. And you can see it because the speed and the skill in which he processes things on Saturdays is incredibly impressive. I have said before, and I still feel this way, that I don't see the Michael Penix Jr. might be a first-round quarterback pick. I don't see that. I don't buy that. It doesn't appear that way to me yet. I will wholly admit that I have been wrong. Believe me, I will tell you, I thought Ryan Mallett would be an NFL star because he's a 6'6" white kid who could chuck the pigskin all over the place at a laser for an arm. It didn't work out for him, but I thought Cam Newton would be a really bad NFL quarterback. So I don't have a great track record of figuring out who's going to be great and who isn't. But I don't see the NFL success with Michael Penix Jr. right now. He's got kind of a weird long release, but he does process things pretty quickly. And part of that is just a supreme understanding of what Washington is trying to do, and he gets it. But he's the single most important player to any team in college football. He's the one guy that any team in the top 5, the top 10, top 25, or in the top 130 that they cannot afford to lose for 4 to 6 weeks, because Georgia can sustain a 4 to 6 week absence of Brock Bowers. Could Michigan sustain 4 weeks without Blake Corum? Probably a little bit, but it would be tough. Could Ohio State sustain 4 weeks without Marvin Harrison Jr.? I don't think so. Could Florida State sustain 4 weeks without Jordan Travis? Probably not. Could Washington sustain 4 weeks without Michael Penix Jr.? Hell no. And I don't think that's outrageous to think, say, or illogical. That's just the truth. They could not survive a 4 to 6 week stretch without that guy running their offense and being the leader of their team. It just doesn't. They don't have that ability, and that's okay. They don't need to have that ability right now, and I don't think there are many programs in America that are set up for, if our starting quarterback goes down, we're not going to miss a beat. Like, it's just not, there's not that much quarterback talent to go around for the most part. It just doesn't exist. And if they did exist, coaches wouldn't be just so cavalier about those dudes entering the transfer portal, because they could come back to hurt you later. Very rarely is a team stacked at the quarterback room like Alabama was when it had Jalen Hurts and Mac Jones and Tua Tagovailoa, or when Ohio State had Dwayne Haskins and Joe Burrow and JT Barrett and all those guys. Like, it just doesn't. Quarterback rooms don't generally stack up like that. So you don't have, like, you have guys that you feel okay about. But if Michael Penix Jr. misses a month for Washington, their season is over. Brock Bowers misses a month for Georgia. They're still probably going to go 4-0 or 6-0, or worst case Ontario, they get to the SEC championship game and he's a game time decision, but they're still in the SEC championship game. Michael Penix misses 4 to 6 weeks for Washington. They're playing in the freaking Alamo Bowl. Like, it's over. It's done. Sorry, but that's it. And that's the difference between, one, the talent level, but then also the pressure that Michael Penix Jr. carries with the more team aspect of Georgia, Michigan, Ohio State. That's the difference between those programs, between the title contenders and the elite programs, I guess, if you want to break it down that way. Is Washington a national championship contender? In my eyes, absolutely they are. You take Michael Penix Jr. out of that equation, they're playing in the Holiday Bowl. Like, they're still going to win 8 games or so. But there's a difference between 8-4 and 12-0 or 13-0. And that guy is the left-handed quarterback for the University of Washington. That'll do it for today's edition of the Daily Huddle. Appreciate you making us a part of your day, however it is, wherever it is you're doing so. We certainly appreciate it. If you're watching it here on YouTube, hit the subscribe button. Make sure you're getting all the college football content we're popping out here at Saturday Glory. If you're listening on the podcast, drop a 5-star review. It goes a really long way in helping us get in front of more college football fans, and that's always a really good thing. We'll be back tomorrow. Looking forward to it. I'll see you then here on the Daily Huddle.